This doctor gave me this list of faces in an emotion journal where I had to pick a face and be like, I felt this feeling today, to the point where I could actually learn to experience feelings. And the reason I loved writing so much was because I didn't know how to communicate feelings verbally.
Welcome to Extraordinary Stories. I'm Aaron Bear.
I'm Christine Butler.
And we have a special guest today that we both nominated.
That's right.
Forbes Shannon. I'm
All
happy
right.
to be here, man. Thank you guys for
Forbes.
having me.
How does it feel to be on the other side of things today?
Oh, I'm having like some real control anxiety.
I bet you do. I bet you do.
Well, you were managing everything. You're still managing everything. So you're still in control here.
So Forbes was nominated by Aaron and I. Aaron and I are so excited about this episode because I want to hear personally the origin story
Sure.
of Forbes and Aaron.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for having me in the studio. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
In your studio.
In our studio. So I was nominated by you two. Okay. So Aaron and I go back 10 years now. 10 years it's been.
Wow.
And Aaron was my professor in college. And we had on the first day, it was like this startup entrepreneurship class. Aaron was the entrepreneur in residence, and I was an entrepreneurship fellow. And on the first day of class, he wrote his number on the whiteboard, and he said, 90% of you won't take me up on this, but I'm always here if you need something. And I remember I wrote it down, like in a journal that I had, and I ripped it off, and I put it in my wallet just in case, I ever needed bail. And,
Little did we know that you were going to use it.
And, it was the first class really at Arizona State where I felt like stimulated in a bunch of different ways, where I felt I was both using math and creativity, like
Wow.
both sides of my brain, in some of the different things that you had us doing. He had us up on the, whiteboarding with sticky notes and kind of coming up with our own companies was like what we had to do. We had to come up with a company. And, after university, I remember I just kept following up with Aaron, because I looked at Aaron and I was like, this is a guy who's where I want to be.
Yeah.
And I went to school for nonprofit management,
Wow.
which what's funny though, is like my degree is starting to become more relevant as we work
No.
with different foundations.
Yeah. Well, put that on your resume.
Yeah.
You're also not making a profit. So
Yeah.
we got to get that, working that out.
Gotta fix that. But yeah, no. And then over the last 10 years, Aaron has been not only my mentor, but my best friend. And I think the best way I can describe our dynamic is we both have subconsciously made it difficult for the other one to stay in our lives, and we keep choosing to stay in each other's lives.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really special. And it's a relationship that I really wish people my age had.
Yeah.
Is someone who's older and wiser and can try out their advice on. You can go ahead and tell that story.
No, so Forbes and I have a comedy show that
Mhm.
he's mentored me in comedy, and we, one of our bits that we worked on, which is really this idea that I'm this mentor, that I have this long list of things that I don't know if they're going to work, and so every time Forbes asked me, I was like, okay, I'm going to use this, use this, and so I literally, hey, I think women are logical, right?
Yeah.
And
Women love ultimatums.
Women love ultimatums.
This is advice.
And I was
Great
like,
advice, babe.
test this out, and
Great advice.
yeah, test this out. And
Thank
then,
God you have me in your life now, Forbes.
2 days later, he calls back. He's like, it didn't work. And the joke is that I have a long list. And I'm scratching out
Yeah.
on my thing. So.
I'm just the guinea pig
Yeah.
of advice. And
But that's what mentorship is. So
it's a lot of trust, is what it is. I think that that's probably the best way I would describe mine and Aaron's relationship is one of trust.
Yeah.
I feel, and I hope you feel that, like, of all the people on the planet, I know that there's one guy who's not going to fuck me over, and it's Aaron. And
Yeah.
time and again, he's looked out for me and my best interests. And
so much trust that I once took him to a facilitation, my highest paid facilitation ever.
That was
And someone brought up suicide, and I said,
Oh.
Forbes tells his story about suicide or whatever, and I go, I go, don't worry. I go, I know Forbes so well, he procrastinates. If he says he's going to commit suicide today, we got 4 or 5 days to work through that. And then the crowd was just like, and the one guy that was the owner of the company is like, man, you guys really trust each other. If you could say that to the other, I was like, we've been through it, man.
Yeah.
We really do.
He's got like 4 or 5 business days.
Yeah, you got 4 or 5 business days before we got to really worry about that. So we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Like, so.
And then I met Christine when Christine, you came into Aaron's life.
Yeah.
And I remember the night he met you, he called me on the way home and he's like, I met the one, dude. And he's never spoken that way. He's always, never been very final or certain.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, and I had an idea in my mind of what you looked like. And then I met you and I was like, this is the one? You don't look anything like Aaron's type. And it's because you broke through all of these different things of what, you brought a whole new dimension to Aaron.
Yeah.
You really have.
Well,
and
vice versa.
Well,
yeah.
In the last year, I mean, Aaron got a tattoo.
Yeah. And I have yet to get a compliment on that tattoo. She gets compliments every day on her tattoos. And I'm always like sticking my arm out there. I'm like, look, I got one too,
I love your tattoo, babe.
It kind of looks like a butterfly there. No wonder no one's it's
well, that's when Aaron sent me a picture of it. And that's when I knew that, you were definitely the one. And he was so in love because I was like, Aaron Bear got a fucking tattoo. And you've really opened up a new side of Aaron that I've really appreciated. And in getting to know you, it's just been so awesome to see have another person who I think we have very similar perspectives that can kind of share under the same perspective of Aaron and to see you get things that you help me with so many breakthroughs. Like you'll say something and I'm like, oh, that's what Aaron was trying to tell me.
Well, you learn everything from everyone else.
Yeah.
When you have a mentor, you're resistant to your mentor.
Yeah, exactly.
Then you're like, oh, some homeless person on the street tells you something. He's like, oh, that's what Aaron meant.
That's what Aaron was trying to tell me.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's been, I'm really lucky to have both of you in my life and to call you guys my best friends and business partners. And, extraordinary is just the next thing in our journey. And I have the coolest job in the world to host this podcast with you guys and just get to spend my day listening to people that are extraordinary. I've got hundreds of mentors now,
Yeah.
and,
So Forbes, let's take a step back and how did you get on this path to put you in the seat you are now? Where did this start? When, and goes back far as you want to go, because we want to, our viewers, listeners want to understand who you are.
Yeah. I always had this belief because I had, really involved and very good parents who really pushed me to think bigger about myself, that I was going to do something special. And at the time, I thought that was be an NHL hockey player.
You can still do it, Forbes.
I won MVP in the on my last team in beer league. So
the C League, not the A or B or the C.
That one is actually the D League. That's why I won.
Oh, okay.
That's why I won MVP. But no, and then I found it that hockey was my first passion, and it was just, I knew it was a passion because it would be hours that I'd just be playing hockey in the street or on the
You would
backyard
make
rink.
them, right, with your dad?
Yeah, my dad and I every year we'd make a rink in the backyard. In Michigan when it was super cold in the winter, and it was just I'd be out there till midnight on a school night, just hurdling pucks, and that was when I really felt like I was in flow. And then I had to stop playing hockey because I had a brain injury. I had a few, and the brain injury really uprooted everything that I was focused on, because I realized okay, this wasn't the thing that I was supposed to be special at. And honestly, I fell into writing because one of the big symptoms of my TBI was, I couldn't read, everything was just so jumbled on a page, and the fine motor skills, but also the ability to form words and sentences, without tremendous pain in my head. It took me a really long time. And what I really understood was I took reading and writing for granted. When you have something and then you can't, it's holy shit, you have to read a lot just to get along.
It's a fundamental skill.
Yeah. And that's when I really fell in love with writing. And that's when I decided writing was going to be my thing. And I had some doctors who were trying to prepare me for the idea that I may not go to school. Like I missed most of the 10th grade, and and even then I was like, I'll probably still get into Arizona State, dude.
You did.
Yeah, I did,
You got
and
into a lot of other great schools too.
I did, and I
And did
chose.
amazing things after it, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, writing was just like a way. It was the first time I was able to actually express myself. Because here's the other thing that came with the brain injury that's, I think, um, pretty wild for people to understand is like, I didn't get feelings. Like, I had to relearn how to feel things.
Like emotionally feel things. Okay.
Yeah, like I had a doctor who helped me tremendously a couple years after college, where because the only emotions I felt were happy and rage, and
Polar
yeah,
opposites.
right, and I didn't feel anything in between. It was funny, like I I uh, I got I got broken up with by this girl who, I mean, we weren't super serious or anything, but I was seeing her for a couple months, and I called Aaron and I was like, dude, I had a breakthrough. I was like, I'm just bummed out. Like, I'm not bottomed out depressed, like, I've never been bummed out before, like, it was a
Mhm.
new feeling of emotion, and this doctor gave me this list of faces in an emotion journal where I had to pick a face and be like, "I felt this feeling today," to the point where I could actually learn to experience feelings, and the reason I loved writing so much was because I didn't know how to communicate feelings verbally. It used to really upset me when people would cry because I was like, I can't feel that, like even when my best friend Zach died, I didn't cry, like I waited a couple weeks and then I threw up one time,
Yeah.
because just thinking
You
about it.
have to express it in
Yeah, but
some
I
way.
did. I was so emotionally wound up and
Yep.
bound that I didn't actually know how to feel things other than writing. And so now I feel things and now I can perform on stage and, people can, I think, really feel my energy and my feelings, more so even than I think, it was funny. Aaron and I the other day, he's like, "What's up? Your energy's off." I was like, "My energy's fine."
It was off.
And I didn't realize that people, because I was so used to hiding
Yeah.
emotions because I didn't have any, like literally studying like how to make faces, like, okay, I'm gonna smile and I'm
And
gonna
you were
tell people I'm
mimicking.
happy, but I didn't feel anything. So writing really helped me discover my emotional range, and
So
so now I've overcompensated, right? Like,
Now you're a
well, I'm
bestseller.
I'm crying during commercials and shit. Like, I'm so emotional now, and it just goes to the same thing as writing. Like, you take it for granted. Like, I couldn't. You didn't realize how important emotions were until you didn't have them.
Yeah.
And now I'm just so thankful that I have feelings, you know?
Yeah.
wow. So tell us a little bit more. I mean, as you're recovering from this TBI and you're kind
Yeah.
of making your way in the world, would love to share a little bit about how you got into community building and how you ended up winning the MLK award
Yeah.
and how you
Yeah.
Let's go into that.
graduated and
Yeah.
became a Koch scholar. I mean, you have this incredible story that most people that are your friends would never think you have done all this.
100%. Yeah. I would, it's funny, like, I was my freshman year, and I was in the honors college at Arizona State at Barrett, and I was a writing fellow, and I was at a party, and someone asked me what dorm I lived in, and I said I lived in Barrett, and they laughed, and they're like, "There's no way you're in the honors college." And that's when I realized, like, okay, I've gone too far in rebranding myself. Because in high school, managing the emotional fallout of losing my passion in hockey, and then also the frustration of like, a TBI doesn't come with a cast, right? And it's hard to explain
Mhm.
to people like that you're going through something. Like, I didn't tell people for a while that I wasn't able to read stuff. I just, like pretended to read shit. Like, I was trying so hard to go back to school just to see my friends that I was like, lying to people about how bad the pain was from the lights and stuff like that. And what I found was that, because I kind of had this hole, was that success filled it. And so
Mm.
I became very successful, but I became successful for the wrong reasons. And when you become successful for the wrong reasons, I mean, I wasn't well liked in high school because as soon as I succeeded, I made sure everyone knew it. Like,
Yeah.
I was arrogant as hell, super cocky, and then it got to the point where I was just winning all these different awards because I started this volunteer organization. You want to talk about community building? I needed something to fill my time. I needed something to help me get into these schools, and that was volunteer hours. And I found that a lot of my peers, they were like, how do you get these volunteer hours? Because at the time, you needed to be 18
Yeah.
to volunteer. And so I realized that there was just kind of this gap where good kids wanted to volunteer, but these organizations who were doing good work didn't want the liability of having the kids volunteer.
Makes sense.
So I just started a nonprofit. My dad helped me, built my first website, and e- essentially, just drafted some legal stuff that absolved the organization
And how
of
old were you?
liability, like 16,
Okay,
and
16.
and we just recruited a bunch of agencies and a bunch of volunteers. And at one point, we had 40 different nonprofit organizations we were serving. And at one point, it was the largest volunteer organization in Southeast Michigan, if not all of Michigan. And it was the first time I ever used the name Forbes Shannon because Forbes is my middle name. My first name is Nicholas. The first time I ever used my middle name Forbes Shannon was when I had to write all the letters of recommendation for my friends to get into National Honor Society because I technically oversaw their volunteer hours. And so then, right before graduation, when they're giving out all the cords for National Honor Society, they actually took mine away because they found out that I wrote all these letters of recommendation. And they're like, this is, you're not allowed to do that. I
Fraud.
was like, why am I not allowed to do it? Like, I supervise their hours, like, well, how come, and then I got kicked out of National Honor Society. But I was so over the top with my boasting that I just became really I did it to myself, right? I was I was a douche. And the problem was the snowball just kept going. Teachers would say stuff like, you should be more like Nick Shannon, which that's not a good way to make friends in high school,
You should be like Nick Shannon.
Yeah. And then senior year, this was the end of my social status in high school, was um, during the Black History Month assembly, they gave out a Martin Luther King Jr. Service Award. And, they're reading all the names of the people nominated, and I'm the last name read. That's how I found out I was nominated. And that was the first time I ever figured out how white Nick Shannon sounded, And I'm sitting in the back of this auditorium, and I'm like, do not give me this award. Like, just don't. And they did. And I had to walk down to the stage, and no applause, no boos. It would have been easier if they booed
Yeah.
because then I would have fed off that.
Right.
It was just silent. And on this walk down the stage, I was like, all right, Nick Shannon is dead to me. I'm going to go to Arizona State. I'm going to change my name, and I'm just going to just totally rebrand. And then I went to Arizona State and started going by Forbes, and it stuck. And just kind of was able to say, make peace with that guy that got me through that really traumatic time, and then just say, but I don't want to be like him again. And Nick Shannon will rise up every once in a while, especially when I have some success. He'll start, that's when I act out of ego, is when Nick Shannon shows up, and I always have to keep him tapered.
Yeah. Put baby in a corner.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. Well, I love that. You have such a unique story, and it should be shared more often because that's truly extraordinary. Forbes, tell me, what's your biggest hobby outside of writing? Because you take that journal everywhere he goes.
It's
He
true.
takes that.
Yeah.
But he loves hockey as well.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you have honestly, I don't know anybody who has more hobbies than Forbes. I mean, you play football, you play all the things,
Yeah.
right?
He's a hobby maker.
He's a hobby
I'm a
maker.
hobby maker for sure. Yeah. I do hobbies because I like the people I get to meet when I do them.
Yeah.
Stand up is now a hobby. At one point it was the career,
Right.
and now it's like a fun hobby that, we do for once a month for our friends, essentially.
Yeah.
And we do shows in between,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a great skill set to have as it goes to public speaking and stuff. When I was in college, my thesis was around this idea of free speech, which was students need a place free of an academic code of college conduct to talk about what it's like actually living in college. And that was a comedy troupe that I started. So the comedy troupe was literally my thesis. And it was, habit stacking. I convinced 3 different professors. I was like, I'm not going to come to your class because I have this comedy show that's really important to me, but I will read the textbook and I will do a set on your material. If you come to a show, it will show that I understand the material. You give me honors credit for it. And it worked.
Yeah.
They came because I think people see passion, right? So I think the reason I have so many hobbies is because there's so many things I'm passionate about.
Yeah, you're a very
I didn't
passionate
know it would be
person.
podcasting, but now I love podcasting. I go a day without podcasting, it stresses me out. Writing, hockey, stand up. It's about the people I get to be with around it. My hockey teammates, I've been on the same team for, it's going to be 14 years this year.
Oh.
And for 10 of those years, I was the youngest on the team. So you understand, no one new came in. I was still the young guy, right? Surrounding myself with guys who are 20 years older than me. and really just getting mentors and friends, like Keith, our
Yeah.
best friend, he was a hockey player that I met. And, just picking people that are successful and surrounding yourself with them. With stand up comedy, I've gotten to work with some really successful people, like there was a year and a half there where Rob Schneider took me under his wing and I got to really see what it takes to be a person that succeeds at his level. And I think probably if I had to like brand myself, it's that I'm like always the learner. Like I'm always surrounding myself with
Mhm.
people that know more than me. Because Nick Shannon thought he knew shit. And my commitment to Forbes is Forbes doesn't know shit.
Yeah.
So Forbes is going to hang out with people and, like ask questions. Nick Shannon didn't want to ask questions because Nick Shannon thought questions were weak.
Because he knew everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. And now I'm asking. I used to think there was no such thing as stupid questions, and I was like, there are stupid questions. But now I'm back to the belief that there's no stupid questions.
No, yeah.
There's questions that you can ask that are stupid because it reveals, oh, this guy has no idea what's going on.
But at least you're asking for
But
knowledge.
you don't know that until you ask the question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Being afraid to ask the question, you'll never actually know where your boundaries are.
Exactly.
Yeah,
You never know what you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. That's you say it best. Yeah. You say you know what you know.
Well, you know what you know.
Uh-huh.
You know what you don't know. Like you don't know.
Mhm.
You know what you don't know that you don't have a PhD in physics, right? But you don't know what you don't know. So there's like,
Right.
and if we were to like judge like on space, like this podcast mic is what I know.
Mhm.
This room is what I know I don't know, and then literally all of Phoenix is I don't know what I don't know.
Right.
So why do we act like we?
Why do we
know?
act like we know shit?
Yeah, we don't.
Yeah, right. And that's kind of my new thesis and take on life is I get to talk with extraordinary people every day, and they just tell me shit that I'm like,
And you're like a super friend. So explain like you're out there, you're building communities. Obviously, you have a lot of passions.
yeah,
Um, you know, you're literally making friends with new people. Our comedy show that we have,
Yeah.
more than Christine was interviewing people after the show,
Mhm.
and more than half of them were like, I come for Forbes.
oh, cool,
And
that's
you're
awesome.
the host. You also invite a lot of people because you're in a lot of different communities.
Right.
You just are more social in that aspect. But bringing those together, like as you build community and what right now in your life are you creating for yourself as you kind of figured out that I think as your mentor, you've never been more clear about your life. What is that? And share
Thanks.
that with.
I think the clarity comes from consistency. Like I'm getting very consistent in who I am and the good and the bad, I'm consistently going to take a week to get back to you on text. but I am
Relatable.
fucking consistent.
Yeah.
He just sold himself on that one.
I got inbox 0 today.
Oh,
Yeah, dude.
I'm not even there yet.
Yeah.
All right.
It was like 2 hours of triage to get back to people who like texted me in January. But I'm there and I'm going to stay on top of it. I'm consistent.
And you're self-aware.
Well, I think that's something that Aaron really helped me with is self-awareness,
I'm
but
like, close the loop. Close the loop.
it's self-awareness, but also like a level of like self-acceptance.
Yeah.
Like you can think about all the flaws you have, and I have tons, But if you just focus on those, you're just going to drive yourself nuts.
Yeah, you got friends to focus on those for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and when in doubt, just make a joke about it. Hey,
no, if you can laugh about it, you're good. You're good.
like I'm terrible at getting back to like my friends on text, but I make a joke about it and they know it and they accept it. It's
Or they don't, and they're not your friend anymore.
yeah, right.
Either way, you don't got to get
Never
back.
your friend.
You got what you wanted.
I got what I wanted. Yeah, yeah. So when it comes to clarity, it's I'm excited to put myself into new conversations and new groups of people all the time. It's there was a couple years there where I was really burnt out on talking to people. Between all the different communities I've built over time with the volunteer organization, with the comedy troupe, with Venture Cafe Phoenix, I kind of reached this point where I was like, I realized that I need to recharge as an introvert in order to be an extrovert, and I was just running on this extrovert
that
thing
social
all
battery.
the time. Well, I used to think introverts were arrogant. It's like, what's so great about you that you enjoy hanging out with yourself? And now I'm like, oh, I'm awesome. I just want to hang out with myself. So yeah, I think to answer your question about clarity, it's what I'm really focused on now is continuing to meet new people, and I think my skill of, just being a friend to people comes it's been over the course of my life. It's just, being able to I think I excel at making people feel seen and heard. My favorite compliment on a podcast is when I just say something just in this half hour I've got to meet this person on the podcast, connect some dots where they say, "Oh, I've never thought of it that
Yeah.
way." And I think I think there's so many of us who just don't feel heard because so many people have a hard time listening.
Yeah.
And that's something that both of you have really helped me with is listening, not listening to respond, but listening to actually understand. And I used to be like always wanting to interject, and
Yeah.
I've really gotten to a place where I can actually hear people and hear what they're saying. And I think that that's unfortunately pretty rare. I think a lot of people feel
I'll agree.
not heard, and just in a 10-minute conversation with somebody, just by hearing them and asking a unique question or,
Mhm.
why, how'd you get into that? Why do you like to do that?
Yeah.
How do you spend your Saturday mornings? Just off the wall kind of questions where people are like, oh, no one's ever asked me that. Cause,
Yeah.
with social media and, media in general and, just all the stuff that we put in our bodies, like there's just so much bullshit floating around that it's hard for anyone to actually cut through and be interested in hearing something real. And I think that that listening ability is what makes people feel like, okay, this is like, that's how I make friends quick, is what I
Yeah.
would say.
Yeah, well, and you've ghostwritten so many books, right? And that
Yeah.
is a skill that is undervalued, underrated as well, right? I mean, you have to know somebody more than their priest does, right?
Yeah, yeah. The ghostwriting was really a great way to actually learn. And then also the probably the most underrated part about ghostwriting is helping write something without interjecting your own point of view.
So true.
Because it's crazy to how slippery that slope is. Like even if I'm having a bad day
Yeah.
and I write something, I've learned that the energy I'm putting into that is negative.
Mhm.
And I can read it a month later and I get negative energy
Yeah.
from it.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
like the energy you put into something, it stays.
For sure. Read any Ernest Hemingway book and you feel his energy in his writing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, with like the ghostwriting is an honor because people trust you with their legacy
Yeah.
and to tell their story. And I think that's kind of the other red thread inside of this woven rope that I am is stories are incredibly powerful.
Mhm.
And I didn't fully grasp that until recently.
Yeah.
I think, like everything's a story. You look around,
Everything.
everything's a story.
The hieroglyphics on a wall,
Yeah, well,
even in ancient
how you
times,
dress,
how you dress,
how you show up, how
for
you say
sure.
hi to
The
someone.
music
It
you
tells a
listen
whole
to.
story of you. And a lot of people have great stories, but just no one's actually taken the time to listen to them. And you build a connection between listening to someone tell their story and it's been refreshing to listen instead of having to tell. Because the stand-up's all telling. You don't listen in stand-up. You listen to the room, you listen to the crowd, but it's you have to tell a story.
Mhm.
And, my mom taught me the art of telling stories, and, I owe all that to her even when I was really young. She loved to entertain, and I was like, "This is the same story she told me 2 days ago, but it's, like, punched up." Like, she's running bits on me, and then she's performing them at the barbecue, you know?
That's so
And I was
funny.
like a little kid. I was like, "I didn't know you could do that." I didn't know you could punch stories up. I didn't know you could rehearse them and practice them and get the timing down. And, so yeah, I hope that kind of answers your question. Like the ghostwriting has been critical, but I think that as we as we listen to people, if I had to give one piece of advice, it's to really listen to what somebody's actually telling you. Not in the words, but in the combination of it. The
Mhm.
words, the tone, the context. You know, I'll every argument I've gotten into with my wonderful partner and girlfriend Amber has never been about the thing we've argued about.
Yeah.
It's been about something totally different.
Mhm.
And me 3 years ago, I would have been like, "Well, I'm right and she's wrong," and I would have stuck to the thing, but then you realize it's nothing about that.
Right.
It's about a different story that someone's telling you. And when you hear those other stories, people
Yeah.
that's when real friendships are, developed, is when you can actually hear someone's real story.
Mhm.
And then when you can retell the story to someone else, to connect them, to introduce them,
Yes.
that's how you can build community.
Yeah.
And stories are at the heart of it all.
For sure. And Aaron has a saying, you say the macro story is or no, the micro story is the micro or the macro story.
The micro story is the macro story. Meaning that you go through your day, and if you talk about sunset,
Mhm,
you're literally talking about your life. It's
mhm.
everything's a metaphor, everything's a reflection of your story you're telling yourself is coming out, just like Ernest Hemingway, just like you're writing. Now, Forbes, so you come to this moment and you're at this powerful place that I've ever seen you, where
Thank you.
everything in your life is just working.
Yeah.
You're helping people at a higher level. You're being of service.
Yeah.
And I think of the things that are happening right now in our business here at Extraordinary, and that
Mhm.
you're helping people kind of connect to themselves
Mm.
by listening and by
Mhm.
helping them, but also develop their personal brands.
Yeah.
Tell us like what you see for the next future of kind of how you're focusing your energy now and how you see that growing into the universe. Because I see we've had this conversation and you just see now things coming together.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Share your perspective on how your future grows in from there.
Yeah, I think so much of my career, which is not a typical career.
No.
Ever since I met Aaron, I've been like, yo,
I
I'm not
probably kept you away from a typical career.
100%. 100%. It's been, like my good friend Vitter, he was just out here. He just had a baby. Him and his wife were out here. They're going to a wedding in Scottsdale. Vitter is a good example of just he was a Indian kid that transferred to our school, and I was the first friend he made in gym class. Included him into our friend group, and then he went and like lived with all those guys in college.
Yeah.
We're all best friends. Um, Connecting, building community, right? And Vitter and I, we met for some beers, and he was like, "So how do you pay rent?"
This is what I do.
And I was so I was always so frustrated that I couldn't articulate what I did to my friends, or how I made money, or all, because I had so many different projects going on. Right? It was books. It was, I mean, we can go through a laundry list of the things that we've helped build for people.
Yeah.
And I was trying to force myself so hard into saying I'm this.
Yeah.
I'm a comedian.
Yeah.
I'm a writer.
Yeah.
I'm a podcaster. And I realized that I just let that go, and I'm Forbes.
Mhm.
And so what I'm really focused on building in the next year is, working with you as the super collaborator, but of just being like the super, I guess, friend and storyteller that helps people come in and put pieces together. Because, I don't know shit. I'm going to be 32 this
You know a
year,
little bit of something.
but I know extraordinary people when I see them.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the outcome is going to be, but I know, hey, you really need to meet this person. And I connect them, and then honestly turn them over to Aaron, because Aaron's like, we can build that,
Yeah.
and then Aaron comes back to me and he's like, this is how we're going to build it. And
Yeah.
like, that's the one thing Aaron taught me is like, especially with AI, you can do anything now.
Yeah.
Like
Anything.
you can do anything. And, so it's weird to try and put yourself into a vocation or to say, this is what I do, because it's just about, this is who I'm with. And so I'm just constantly focused on leveling up who I'm with and who I'm spending my time with and who I bring into my world.
Yeah.
So that, because I know I can play a part in everyone's life, because stories are everything. Stories are everywhere. But I know that just by connecting people and building it in the next 10 years, I just want to know everybody and their stories, and,
Yeah.
be able to retell their stories or tell them to other people. I've realized that I am, like, if I had to put something on my brand, it's the guy who listens to stories.
Yeah.
I thought for so long I was the storyteller.
Mm.
I'm the story extractor. And that's what I'm really excited to build for the next, I don't know, maybe for the rest of my life. Maybe that's what I'll always be,
Yeah.
But I
Well,
love it.
I think even for me over the last 10 years of mentoring you, and you realize I want to encourage all of our listeners to become mentors.
100%.
And every person out there is to find a bunch of mentors, not
Yep.
one,
Mhm.
because that guy probably has a scratch pad. You're doing all kinds of wrong. So you need different mentors to understand if you're getting good advice, and you need to make your own discernment on that. But I think for your future, as I see, you have helped craft my own thought leadership.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank you.
One story I just want to tell, as we're because it's really important. In 2020, the world had changed,
Yeah.
and Forbes and I both kind of lost our livelihood, as I was a global facilitator traveling the world all the time. And
I was a bartender.
and he came to me, right after that, he came to me as a bartender and argued that you didn't get a 25-cent raise. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember talking you through that. And
He's such a good friend. He was angry with me. He was like, why are you talking to me about 25 cents?
Yeah.
I'm like, this is literally $20 over the year. It's going to help you. You're going to be able to buy 2 more coffees this year, for God's sakes. But I'm like, this is where you need to understand that you're bigger than you're trading your time and energy for
Yeah.
something. And
Mhm.
when you start putting in the things you want to do and you grow those things, and I see right now you're at this kind of critical point where, um, I see that exponential curve and from the mentorship and extracting, but you've helped me create
Mhm.
thought leadership.
Mm.
And that's where I even see myself differently. And that's where I think your gift is to help even these extraordinary people coming on when
Mm.
they leave our podcast. They're like, one, they're proud of their episodes
Yeah.
because they're like, wow, I said something I never thought of.
Mhm.
I also expanded my mind. One
Yeah.
thing that I always want to do is when I meet people is help them think bigger. I think you've
Mhm.
gotten that
Mhm.
Yeah.
from my mentorship is that you naturally just pull it out of people.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You and Christine have a magical dynamic in helping people feel comfortable and safe in the masculine and the feminine
Yep.
of then telling a story that then all of a sudden is going to live on forever for them. Because
Yeah.
most extraordinary people don't take the time to tell their story.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing here. And that's where you've literally tapped in all these talents of
Mhm.
community building and all that, because all that comes together at extraordinary. And that's what's so exciting is you're in the right place at the right time
Well,
with the
and
right platform.
2020 was that,
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
Like you should explain that from your perspective of like 2020 of like, as we got together, like right place, right time.
Yeah, I mean, so I came to Forbes and this is where we built a lot of trust. I said, "Hey, Forbes, we're gonna write a New York Times, we're gonna write a bestseller together." And we
I
we
thought it was crazy, but I was like, yo, I love the energy.
we literally both had nothing.
That is so Aaron,
we, had,
though. Like,
we had nothing going.
We had nothing going.
I often have this scene of Matthew McConaughey walking down the street with
Yeah.
no shirt on,
Yeah. Yeah.
and he's got everybody's against him. He's about to die. His girlfriend hates him, and he's like positive. I'm like,
Yeah.
I was in this moment thinking, okay, we're gonna do this. We're in 2 days. We're gonna write an ebook,
Mhm.
and we're gonna publish it on Amazon, and we did.
Yep.
Innovate during crisis.
Yep.
Literally March. You can go look on it.
Yeah.
Buy it. It's still there.
I think it was the first book written about COVID.
Yeah, it
because-
really
oh,
was.
shit.
No, like everything closed. And then the
Okay.
next day we're like, all right, well, that's right.
Everything closed. We put a book about innovation during the crisis of how are you going to innovate during that.
Oh.
I should look back and even if that's even relevant anymore. And I said, we're going to do this. And then we're going to write a book. And I have this self-help book that I bought in 2006.
Yeah.
So it was like 14 years later.
Do you guys have it up here?
Yeah, we got it right here.
Reimagining Innovation,
Uh-huh.
which my good friend Russ Fall created the cover.
Yeah.
While
Mhm.
I was, building Namaste Republic as well.
Mm-hmm.
And in the process, I said, we're going to write this book and it's going to get attention. And we sold a couple thousand copies of this.
Mm-hmm.
And then we took it to a New York publisher.
Mm-hmm.
And they were able to pick us up.
Mm-hmm.
And a year later in 2021,
Mm-hmm.
we became a Wall Street Journal and USA Today bestseller, #1 Amazon
Mm-hmm.
in 10 different categories.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people always talk about some little category. We're #1 in business.
Yeah.
We were
yeah.
#2 overall on Barnes & Noble of all books.
Well,
Mhm.
weren't you guys sandwiched in between two people?
Yeah.
Well, so in Barnes & Noble, we were #2 because John Grisham was #1,
Okay.
and you're just never going to catch the Grishmeister.
you can't catch
But yeah, my mom's two favorite like celebrity personalities are Anderson Cooper and the other guy from Bravo.
Andy Cohen?
Andy Cohen, yeah. And so when it came out, we were #4 on the Wall Street Journal list, and Anderson Cooper was #3, and Andy Cohen was #7. And when I sent the paper to my mom, and she looked it up, she goes, "Oh my God, you're between Anderson Cooper and Andy Cohen."
What
And
an
I was like,
honor.
"Hey, if that helps put it into perspective for you, then fuck yeah, Mom."
I get your mom. I get it.
That's
That's
where we are.
an honor.
But the critical moment there is while we were writing it, I literally was going, everybody goes through their own journey. And I'm like, I don't think my voice is that important. I don't know why I want to say this. And,
Mhm.
Forbes gave me probably one of his best pep talks. He's like, Aaron, he goes, I got nothing else to do. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to finish this and we're going to finish getting the bestseller. We're going to do all these different things. And it was a moment where there's lots of times that I was the mentor, but in that moment I was like, okay, we're going to do it.
Mhm.
Now you've made me a thought leader where I think I just got too much to say. I have thoughts on everything and I want to share it with everyone.
Yeah.
So you were the one that literally kind of, opened up that. And I think you'll do that for a lot of people on our extraordinary podcast.
Absolutely.
And that's where
Yeah.
we're excited that it's a nomination only network, that
Yeah.
we're all bringing these extraordinary people in to tell extraordinary stories.
I love extracting stories from people and then working with them to tell them.
Mhm.
Like that's probably my favorite thing. Because when Aaron said that, I remember I think you give a very polite version of what I said. I think I was angry. I was like, "Fuck you, man. We're finishing this.
I can see that, yeah.
You started this. This is too good.
Yeah.
People need this.
No,
This helped me."
well,
You know, like,
Forbes, like,
because I only had two emotions back then, happy and rage.
Right. No, but like just from my take on you, I've known you a year and a half now, and you've been nothing but a super friend. You called me on my
Thanks.
birthday, and I'm like, why is my boyfriend's friend calling me right now? But I pick up, and your energy is always so good, and you're like, I
Thanks.
don't know what Aaron sees in the both of us, but like we're fucking awesome. Like it just, you've always been just so good to me, and
Oh,
just
thanks.
thank you. And honestly, now Aaron and I call you if we need help in our relationship,
Yeah.
and you guys
Which
just
we
like
won't- we'll
sit down, listen up now, and you like we sit straight. We're like, yes, we're okay.
It's really good to get. It's really easy to give advice
Yeah.
and then not take it in your own life. Everyone's
We're all
like
guilty
that,
of
right?
that.
Yeah.
I think it comes to is we're building something, and I consider you family, and I
Yeah,
say that
thanks.
in Cape Cod we
Totally.
have
Cape Cod crew.
the Cape
Yeah,
Cod crew,
that was
which
so much fun.
Liam, Declan, Bally, us three, we
Mhm.
had an incredible time.
Yeah.
I see a future of building, incredible retreats that
Mhm.
we're planning here
Yeah.
at Extraordinary. We're gonna have dinners. We're gonna have all, pulling you into those so that you can, as well as you, Christine. And I think we're just gonna have fun.
Yeah.
We know it's really not that serious.
It's really not that serious.
And I guess to end this episode, what's the one piece of advice? I know you already gave one, but
Yeah, yeah.
if you want to double down on that, or if you have another, what's the one piece of advice, be extraordinary, that you would give to our listeners?
Yeah, I think it would be challenge something that is certain. Like today, that's an easy thing. Say something is because I had all of these things that were so certain
Yeah.
in my life. I was this, I was going to make this much money. I challenge one thing that you believe to be certain.
Is the earth really round?
And if that wasn't certain, well, you can go there too. Like that's totally fair. I think the more you challenge the things you think are certain, the more open you are to getting to other places. I think with manifestation, for example, the magic that I've seen of it is that it happens, but it's never what you thought it would be. It's never the exact path you thought it would be. If times I've gotten so rigid on it has to happen this way, it has to go like this, it has to be this, like there was a comedy show like a year and a half ago where I was so certain that it had to be like this, and it hurt all the creativity and flexibility, and it was a worse show because of it. And then the next month I came in and I was like, fuck it. I got no plan. Everyone's just going to have a good time. I'm certain of that, but I'm not certain about any of the steps in between. It was our best show, so if there was one piece of advice, it would be to look at the things that you think are certain and then ask yourself, what if this wasn't certain? What else could happen? Because it's not, people love certainty out of fear and scarcity. But I think certainty on the other side of that, there's a lot of real good potential and opportunity that you could miss if you're so certain on something. So,
Well, thank you, Forbes, for
thanks.
being a guest on
Your show.
your show.
That was a lot of fun. I get why people love this shit.
Well, and that was Extraordinary Stories. I'm Aaron Bear.
I'm Christine Butler.
And
I'm Forbes Shannon.
we'll see you next time. To learn more about this, go to joinextraordinary.com.
JOINEXTRAORDINARY.com.
Yeah, I can't do that.
And all our socials at Join Extraordinary too.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.